Welcome to the Franchise Aus podcast, your inside edge on Aussie franchising. Views expressed by the hosts and guests of this show are general in nature, so please always seek independent professional advice before making any franchise or business investment decision. Today we're speaking with one of the OGs of Australian franchising, Jim Penman, from the Jim's Group, founder of the Jim's Group, one of the most trusted and recognised brands, over 5,000 franchisees with more than 50 divisions. Mr. Jim Penman, welcome to the Franchise Aus podcast.
Yeah, good to be here.
Jim, for a long time now, you've been known to have those really hands-on divisions such as cleaning, fencing and lawn mowing, but now you've moved into health and wellness. So you've gone on the record as saying that you're there to serve your franchisees and support them in every way you can. What does that look like in terms of support system for a franchisee coming into the Jim's Group?
Well, first of all, we screen people. We have a very strong policy of not accepting people we think are significantly likely to fail. We train. We have a 3-day generic course, and we know that works because as soon as we started running it, our attrition rate dropped dramatically in the first year. Then we provide leads, so we give people work, and we're pretty good at that. We have a system called pay for work guarantee, which means that if they don't make enough money, and there's a set limit, anything from $1,000 to $2,500, they can actually go and offer free services. And we show them how to do that. It can be done directly to people you know, through social media. Anyway, offer free services, we'll pay for it. That builds their business. Then we have an ongoing mentoring process. Franchisor should ring them at least every week in the beginning, and then at least every month ongoing, just to offer help, answer their calls quickly, run meetings. We ask for at least 8 meetings a year to be run that franchise is going to attend. So you have a whole series of training and ongoing coaching.
So a franchisee at the start would have some perceived struggles, whether they're in their head or actual struggles. So in the early days, what are the most common challenges they face, and how does the Jim's Group help to overcome them?
Well, some franchisees, most get reasonable amount of work, but there's the significant minority that don't. And that's a major problem if they haven't got enough leads. So we've got to help and encourage them to do the paperwork guarantee thing, which isn't as easy as you might think, giving your services away. If you go to most people at random and say, hey, can I, mow your lawns for free or clean your house for free? They'll look at you and say, oh, what's going on? That's suspicious. And they say no. So you've got to work out how to do that. And there's ways of doing it using social media like local Facebook pages and going through associations and stuff. We teach people how to do that. That's a problem. Some people do lack income in the early days. Other problems are we're very, very fanatical about customer service. We have a very strong principles about how franchises should act. Like you're supposed to, if you get a lead, you must return the phone call within 2 hours. If you don't get through, you send a text to the client, and ideally much quicker than 2 hours. And then if you make an appointment, you must turn up, and if you must give them a 2-hour time slot. So you can't make an exact time because you can't make it. And then if you can't make it that time, you've got to let the client know. And if you can't know, you text them. And there's a whole stack of things like that we push through. And franchisees sometimes struggle with that. They find it difficult. Bearing in mind, our system is so draconian that if you look after 90% of clients properly and 10% of clients not properly, eventually, after many warnings and breaches, you'll be terminated. It's that strict. You really have to do the right thing by clients, because looking after clients properly is the one thing that helps a franchisee most, and the Jim's Group as a whole to do well. You've got to be great with clients, great reputation, ongoing work, turning leads into jobs and building the brand. That's tough for some people.
It would be an adjustment, but they also sound like they're fundamentals. So turning up to a job on time, communicating via text message, a time frame, being there when you say you're going to be there and do the job that you said you're going to do.
That's right.
They sound like fundamentals.
Let me tell you, it's not commonplace. We have a system called Bizza where we actually sell surplus leads to independent contractors. We use that money to support franchisees. We do extra advertising and all kinds of things with it. One of the things they complain about is that these systems are so much tougher than anything they're faced with in normal life. In their view, their customer service is good, but we actually check. We actually send surveys to clients 10 days after the lead goes out, and we ask them what's happened. And so we get these kinds of complaints back. People think it might seem self-evident, but it's not normal. Most independents don't operate at that level. Most businesses don't operate at that level.
So to that extent, not everybody's cut out to even be a franchisee, are they? Some people just are more suited to being an independent, and some people like to follow a blueprint and a system. I'm more of a systems person. If it's laid out in front of me, I'll just do the activity to get the result. But we're all wired differently. What's your take on that?
Well, yes, you're right. If you're an extreme maverick, it will be difficult. Someone like myself, for example, would not make a good franchisee because I'm a designer of systems. I just wouldn't comfortably sit within somebody else's system. I have to say too that most people aren't actually very suited to being in business for themselves at all. The failure rate in service business is extremely high. This is widely available statistics. Of 100 people who start an independent cleaning or gardening business, between 90 and 95 will be gone within a year. You can look this stuff up online. Now with us, we have a failure rate, but with us, 12%. On latest figures, will be gone within a year. So 88% will succeed. Most of those would not have succeeded as independents because we give them training, we give them coaching, we give them leads, we give them pay for work guarantee. We give them the whole power of the brand to help them to be successful.
That's an extremely low attrition rate by any standard definition. With the pay for work guarantee, let's just touch upon that quickly. So essentially, you go out, you offer free services when you're getting up and about, and then you do paid services where somebody's paid you and they've given you the job. And that's averaged out over the course of 4-week or 1-month cycle. Is that correct? And then the difference is paid to the franchisee. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
just send an invoice. We ask for the name, address, and phone number of the client concerned, and they'll be checked. Occasionally, franchisees do the wrong thing. They'll put fake ones in. They'll pretend they've done it. That's pretty serious.
A franchisee gets opportunity to effectively go and give someone. Of course, they've got to give up their time, but they've got to go. But they can go and give somebody a free service, a free lawnmower, a free clean, a free whatever that might be.
Often it's quite not uncommon for such people to become ongoing clients anyway, or give extra work or refer them to somebody else. But even if they don't, it doesn't matter. One of the ways to do it, and one of the best ways we've found, is that you go into, say, a local Facebook group and you say, who in the community is in need? Who needs house cleaning? So you come some old pensioner who can't afford to get somebody clean, and we go in and clean their house for them. That's actually pretty good, because what happens then, you take a photo and you put that on your Facebook feed, and people look at that and they say, wow, here's this wonderful humanitarian who's gone out and done a fantastic job for old Lucy Kelly, and she's so grateful and stuff. Well, that's great stuff, because the naming up is there. Look, can I get Mary to come and clean my place, because she's so wonderful. That they don't quite realize that we're paying her to do it, but still, it does work.
Absolutely. Now that leads me into my next question. Franchisee autonomy versus structure. How do you strike the right balance between giving franchisees the freedom to run their business while maintaining the standards of the gym groups? Is it about making those fun Facebook posts? How do you get the balance there?
There are strict principles about the way we operate. Signage and uniforms, very strong on that. We ask people for regular feedback, and our compliance department checks on that. Customer service. Customers have got to be serviced very, very well, which is a remarkably high standard. And of course, franchisees have got to pay their fees. That's a vital part of the whole system. With those constraints, franchisees are very free to run their business the way they wish. For example, we don't tell franchisees when to work. We don't say how much work you should take. We don't say what sort of income you should do. It's up to the franchisee. We also don't tell franchisees what to charge. And the only time, so if a franchisee can charge like 10 times the normal rate for a job, we don't object to that, and it's never a complaint. If you end up charging an awful lot, you get a lot of knockbacks, you've got no work, well, you've got to sort of modify it, but you're charging, and we'll advise you to do that. But it's not our business to tell you what to charge. So, and the way you go about the job, what you offer, as long as you satisfy the client, we really don't mind. And obviously, you've got to stay within the law. So it's actually very free within those sorts of guidelines. We don't stop people, franchisees, from getting work from referrals, for example. And that can be in other franchisees' territory. Territory is only something that governs us as franchisors. If a lead comes into somebody's territory, then we must give it to them. But franchisees can get referrals wherever they like. So it's kind of, franchisees can grow the business to whatever extent they like. They can put as many employees on as they like. They can have as many trailers or vans on the road as they like. It's very open. And the fees don't go up. The fees are only based on flat fee plus lead fee. So if you aside from those very fundamental points about customer service, signage, and paying fees, we really don't exercise much control over franchisees at all.
So a franchisee really has the ability to put their energy into their business and really make it their own, plus have that right amount of structure then to be able to grow the framework of the business and get it up and running and scale it up. You've actually led me into my next question, or next set of questions. There's a lot of misinformation out there about the Jim's Group. I speak to a lot of franchisees in my day job and through the networking meetings I go to. So I want to tackle a couple of them and go on the record to clear them up. A lot of people say the Jim's Group charge a percentage of turnover. So, I mean, I've just heard that as a bit of a pub test conversation. Oh, he charges 20% of turnover. Now, please clear that up. I know that's not the case. Tell us about it.
Okay, what we charge, it's a flat rate fee, which is most revisions is about $700 per month, plus what we call a lead fee. And then there's also advertising. Yeah, the total fee probably average about $800 a month. It's not percentage of turnover, which is good and bad in a sense, because if you're only making $1,000 a week, which is ridiculously little, then your fee is going to be quite high. You're paying, in that sense, you're paying probably 20% of your income in fees. But if you're turning over $2 million a year, which is one franchisee recently we interviewed, then your franchise fees are sort of a rounding error, because well, you can figure out for yourself how much you actually pay in fees. So franchisees who make a lot of money pay very, very little. The profit we make as a company is probably around about 1% of what franchisees turn over. Now, the average fee we think is about 6%. This is based on surveys of what clients make, because they don't tell us directly. We don't even know what a franchisee makes unless they actually volunteer it. But we did a survey of mine franchisees recently, and they found that average turnover was just under $3,000 a week. It was about $2,900 per week. So your average fee on that one, would be around about 6%. That's where you get the figure from. But it can be ranging from as high as 20% if you're making very little. It can be a tiny fraction of a percent if you're making a lot.
Yep.
So 20%, I'd be a billionaire. Considering the cost to run a business, if I was to take in 20% of turnover and I could pocket the difference we don't use, I'd be actually turning over like I'd be making a profit of like $150 million a year, and I would be a billionaire. There are companies that do it actually. Jani King's an American-based commercial cleaning franchise. They take 15%. There was a company, Mr. Antennas, who used to take 50% of the turnover of franchisees. But the problem with those things is because it's such a harsh system, the franchisees, you don't get large numbers of franchisees because it's just not very viable.
Yeah. I've spoken to a lot of franchisees across various divisions, and those businesses that have 2 or 3 employees and they've scaled it up to that kind of level, very satisfied with the turnover of their business, and they're turning over a lot of money and paying a flat franchise fee.
It's a flat plus there's a lead fee.
Yeah.
So for every lead we provide, that's a way of basically drives customer service to a large extent.
That would also be a business growth lever, wouldn't it? Insofar as if you're expanding your business, you're putting staff on, you would want to turn the tap on for more leads.
That's exactly right. And then you pay slightly more fees. But it doesn't, for most divisions, it doesn't actually amount to a significant proportion of their actual fees. Most of their fees is in the base fee and the advertising contribution.
Now, a couple of misconceptions. I think people out there think that you're like Montgomery Burns living in a big, giant, humongous mansion out there, but you tend to live quite sort of like frugally and just live a fairly simple life. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I personally pay myself an income of about $300,000 a year, which is very nice, actually. My wife and I live very comfortably. I buy all the books I want, as you can see behind me. I buy all the fruit I want. But I don't have expensive tastes. I buy my clothes from Kmart, except they're not actually uniforms. Yeah, no, house is decent house. It's worth more than $1 million. You probably couldn't. What my house is worth, you can only buy a decent cottage in somewhere like Kew or Hawthorne. But it's a nice house.
Yeah, and it does the job, and everyone's happy, and that's what it's about.
I'm notoriously stingy. I have to say, I'm always the person that my wife complains about it. When I go shopping, I'll always look down to the bottom shelf to find the Coles brand or whatever it is, so I can get the cheapest stuff. She says, "No, you got to buy the the brand of the stuff. No, it's just as good.
So Jim, you're on your 70s now. You're looking fit, by the way. So good on you. Now, have you ever been tempted to get back on the tools? Push a lawnmower around for the purpose of getting some vitamin D and some moving meditation, or what?
Well, actually, no, I do get on the tools. In a sense, I've got a small farm out in the bush, and I go out there at the weekends and I dig potatoes and mow my lawns with a push mower. So I love that sort of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I love gardening. That's why that's the basis of my whole business was being a lawn mowing contractor, a gardener, and it was fun. That's what I always tell people too. They often get asked, "What should I do?" And I say to them, well, what do you enjoy doing? Do you like cars? Well, car cleaning is fantastic. Do you love dogs? Dog wash, definitely. Are you sort of a electronic kind of person? Do you like fiddling with things? Well, something like antennas, security is a really good business, or maybe test and tag. So if you're very white collarish, you're an IT geek, well, then what about IT? Go for your love. And I love gardening. I still do. I don't get paid for it, but I enjoy it. And I tell you what, they're really, really nice. Like I had some tomatoes, like I should show you, from my farm. I brought them up and gave them to my staff because I've got so many. So I just give them away to my staff, as well as eggs from my chooks and stuff
There's
like
a lot
that.
to be said for getting out and about, getting vitamin D, and some moderate physical activity. Sustained moderate physical activity is definitely beneficial. Good for the soul as
Well,
well.
that's important too. I also exercise every day. I run half an hour or do weightlifting and stuff like that. So yeah, you got to keep fit.
Jim, let's go to the traits of a successful franchisee. So in your view, what are the traits or characteristics?
Yeah, two things most of all. First of all, having a connection with customers, having an emotional desire to look after customers seems to me very important. If you're the kind of person that only looks after customers to the extent that it affects your bottom line, and that's emotionally your whole sole driver, you tend to make shortcuts. So if you really care about customers, like when I was mowing lawns, I really wanted to do a great job. I hated letting customers down. It wasn't a financial thing. It was just an emotional thing. And just like my attitude now about my franchisees, I'm very emotional about it. I get very upset if people do poorly. So that's one thing. The other thing is you've got to have a attitude of constantly looking at what you're doing yourself and saying, how can I do it better? How to improve. So when I was mowing lawns, I was always looking at the way to save a half second getting around a tree, or getting between jobs more efficiently, or anything. I'm still working on ways to handle emails more effectively, or how to do any job better, more effectively, faster, better result. You've got to be open to that. If you've got we have a distinction with franchisees between what we call gold, bronze, and lead. A gold franchisee is somebody who is always looking for ways to improve. And they're the ones that are super efficient, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and employing people and just doing better and better and better. And we'll help them, we'll advise them and work with them. But basically, they drive it themselves. They just use the system. Then you've got a majority of what I call bronze, which are people who aren't necessarily natural in business, but we coach and help them. And we advise them. If they do something, we say, okay, now you need to do it this way. When a client rings, get back to them promptly, drone them. Send a text if you can't get through, this kind of stuff. You coach and you coach and you coach, and they'll generally tend to do well with help. Then you've got people we call leads, and they're the ones that just won't listen and won't learn. So if something goes wrong, they say, your system's stupid. I don't need to ring them back. I just need to do this. I can just text them. That's all, because that's what I think I should do. I won't listen to you. They just don't listen. And they always blame, I'm not getting enough work. You say, well, what about doing some freebies? No, you've got to put me more leads. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do it. People, that stuff doesn't work. I haven't tried it, of course, but that doesn't work. So I want you to give me more work. You got to give me more leads. What about your pricing system? No, it's not me. You've got to change. So they always blame somebody else, and they're the ones that tend to fail.
Fair enough.
To what extent do you listen, learn, experiment, change? Or to what extent do you blame somebody else for what's going wrong and say, no, I'm not going to change. The world's got to change around me.
So what's in your locus of control and what isn't? And it's about controlling the controllables and making the improvements and adjustments along the way, as you've highlighted there. Jim, I've got a game for you. My daughter, so you've got grandkids. So you would have you heard of the game Spotto? So you're driving around in the car. So if a kid sees a yellow car, they'll call that Spotto. Now, I used to be a bus driver for a time, so I used to drive kids around, and you would hear kids saying Spotto when they saw a yellow car. And they go, Spotto, 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 Spotto. So now what's happened is my daughter and her basketball teammates have got onto a new game, and it's called Jimmy.
Yeah.
So every time they see a Jim's vehicle, and there's lots of them out on the road, they say, Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy. And they all have a bit of fun with that one. So yeah, you can put that to your marketing department and put it out there for the Gen Alphas. You're welcome.
Okay, all right. Sounds a good version. I used to play that kind of thing with my kids. We'd actually sort of have a competition who can find more white cars or more red cars, and each time you got your own color car, you got to win. So we could do that. Sounds fun.
Jim, a lot of people dream of starting their own business or franchise, but hesitate to take the leap. I'm going to put the link to contact the Jim's Group below in our show notes, but how would they get in touch to do the next step?
Go in there and you'll find all the details. Just click on the franchise thing and you can ring us 131546, which is 131 Jim, or you can put an online inquiry through.
And if they've got that sort of amount of hesitation, which is understandable if someone's making a change, what would you say for someone to work through that, whether it's starting a Jim's franchise or any business or venture in life, really?
Well, you should have hesitation enough to do proper research. Anybody who goes into business without doing really careful research is a fool. So what you should do is get the information, find out what it's about, be aware of some of the myths around, like this 20% of 25% of turnover and stuff, which I wish I had, but anyway, I don't. But ring as many franchisees as possible and then spend time out on the road with them. A lot of people say it's impossible for franchisees to make this much money, but I say, well, it's easy. Why don't you just go out and spend some time and then just tot up what they're actually making and see how they do it. It is quite possible. So do your research. And that implies whether you're looking at any franchise system, any one of ours, either. Still do your research, check it out properly. Come along to training. We don't actually insist people sign before they train. In fact, we prefer them to train before they sign. So you can actually see, so find out, do your research. And as on different systems too. Don't just try us, try Johnny King or Fox or whoever you want to try and make your comparison.
That's a good bit of insider advice. Speaking of, Jim, thank you kindly for all your insights and your advice today on the Franchise Aus podcast. I'm sure our viewers are going to get a lot out of this conversation. So cheers and all the best for the future of the Jim's Group.
Thanks, John.